What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Tarzan. I am so excited to finally be talking about this movie, Disney's 1999 Tarzan, the final film in the Renaissance period of their films that started in '89 with The Little Mermaid and would go on to have great installments into that era with things like Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Lion King, Mulan, Pocahontas, and others. And it's just easily one of my favorite eras of Disney's. I haven't really tackled a lot of films in this era, but I'm definitely excited to do so. And I thought I'd start it off with one of my favorite, not only Disney films, but also one of my favorite animated films of all time, 1999's Tarzan. And I am incredibly excited to be joined by my friend Rashad Reviews for this collab. We're gonna be hearing from him in just a little bit, but a big thanks to him for being here in this video. And let's go ahead and talk about Tarzan. So like I said, Tarzan came out in 1999 and was the final film in the Disney Renaissance period, an era that I really, really love and has some of the most beautiful animation in the 2D format. It wasn't the final film to come out under Disney that was 2D animated. That would be The Princess and the Frog, which I believe is part of the post-Renaissance era. But yes, this is easily one of my favorite animated films of all time. A beautifully animated film that I think tells an incredibly great story that has so many great elements for people of all ages. There are elements of this film that are cute and funny and silly, the things that you want out of a Disney animated film for a younger audience, but it also touches on some pretty serious themes. There's some great action in this film, and there's a lot of really great messages for people in general of all ages. There's a lot to take away from this film that you can watch it with your kids, you can watch it as an adult, and still feel attached to the story. I have to give a lot of credit to the two directors of this film. I really enjoy what they did with this film and just the way they were able to tell the story. And if you look at the credits on IMDb and see how many people were credited for the screenplay and the story, there were a lot of hands in the pot, and I am super glad that this film turned out as well as it did. It tells a really great origin story of the character of Tarzan, the man that was raised in the jungle amongst the apes and, ends up falling in love with this woman named Jane that comes from, the regular human world. And what I love about this film and what I've always enjoyed about the Tarzan story when it's done well is it's able to kind of do a two-sided fish out of water story. You have Tarzan being introduced to these humans that come from a normal civilized universe who have their own camp with their own tools, equipment, and clothing, and he's able to kind of be a fish out of water in that situation. However, you have these characters in the jungle and they're essentially in Tarzan's world, and he's able to show them a side of his world that they don't really know too well, So what I really love about this film is that it does do a really great job of being a fish out of water story on both sides and really gives you something to really be connected to by the end of the film. So this film does a great job of being a great origin story to Tarzan, where we get to see him as a baby into being a young child, and eventually into what we would see him as a majority of the film as an adult. And what I really enjoy about the pacing of this film is that we have enough time in all of those stages in his life to really feel something for him. There is a great sense of identity crisis, kind of a place of belonging that he is kind of having to figure out throughout the course of the film. His journey of self-discovery and his place in the world is something I thoroughly enjoy in this film. And beyond that, you have a great story filled with romance and silly, fun elements that you expect in a Disney movie with great music and fun songs that are kind of cutesy and fun. But it really does dive deep into the idea of family and romance, and again, like a discovery of where you kind of fit in the world. What I also really enjoy about this film is it tells a story of family, like I just mentioned, but also kind of the idea that family is not always blood. I've always been an advocate for the idea that sometimes we just have people in our lives that we kind of put up with, that are in our lives because we are related to them, but at the end of the day, are they really family? I've always been somebody who's advocated for the idea of creating your own family over time, creating your own family of friends. I'm super grateful to look at my life and look at my list of friends and being able to realize I have an amazing set of friends and people that I care for and who care for me, that have no blood relation to me whatsoever, and I'm able to really, connect with them and have a family bond without it being the traditional family. And I love that this film really tackles that very well as he finds his place amongst the apes and, is consistently looking for that place of approval from his father figure in this film, the leader of the gorilla pack, who doesn't really, care for him. Now, I kind of realized I skipped over a little bit about Tarzan's story, but I'm just going to assume you guys know. This is the man who, as a baby, was taken in by a group of gorillas. In this film, his mother, played by Glenn Close, is named Kala, and she finds him after Kala and her husband's baby has been killed by this jaguar that we see throughout the course of the film. And then she ends up taking on Tarzan. The husband is not about it. It's like, that is not my son. And over the course of the film, Tarzan has to kind of try to gain his respect and kind of gain his place amongst this tribe of apes. And the reality of the situation is most apes in this community, even though he may annoy them at times, kind of enjoy him or at least accept him. And the one person that he wants to kind of have that approval from, doesn't really give it to him. So I really enjoyed that journey of self-discovery, the journey of family in this film and what it means to be family, that you can have an unconventional family and it can still mean the same thing. I think that they really tackle that really well in this film. I really enjoy the romantic elements. It's very believable between Tarzan and Jane when she comes into the picture of the movie. Again, kind of being able to see the fish out of water situation kind of flipped on its head and having it on both sides allows both characters to consistently be in an uncomfortable situation, having to learn stuff about each other and having to kind of build respect for one another and their individual lives. And through the course of that, they end up falling in love. I really do believe and buy into their journey throughout the course of the film. And what I really love about this film as well is the animation. It's a beautifully animated film that has so much to look at. It has so much depth to it, and it really makes me miss 2D animation. I love where we are with 3D animation, and there have been some incredible films that have come out with 3D animation, but I just feel like they completely left 2D animation behind. And I think that's a big reason why I'm such a big fan of anime, because it's an animation style that I can still really enjoy, that they're consistently putting out new content in. I would love to see Disney put out films more in 2D. Going back and rewatching a movie like this, I just can't help but feel that every single time I watch it. I always think to myself, how amazing would it have been to see films like Frozen in 2D animation? Obviously, I love what they've done with those films visually, but I think that they could do something so cool if they were to bring it to 2D animation, especially if they were able to blend 2D and 3D like they do in a lot of films these days. But I feel like they could do something super special with a movie like that today that I just feel like they're kind of not doing, and it feels like a missed opportunity. I mentioned before that there are two directors of this film, and I just want to say their name, Chris Buck and Kevin Lima, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Two incredible directors. I just had to mention their name here, that I just love the way they were able to bring this story to life. I love the way that this film looks on an animation style. So much praise to the animation team, and I gotta give the biggest praise to Phil Collins and his score throughout the course of this film, as well as just the soundtrack overall. Phil Collins wrote, produced, and played all the instruments and sung all of the songs throughout the course of this film, and it's easily one of my favorite soundtracks to any Disney film of all time. Now let's go ahead and hear what Rashad G Reviews had to say about this one.
Perez, what's the deal? Pickles, is everything kosher? So our tit for tat saga continues. This time you got me watching Disney's Tarzan. And it's crazy, I've never seen this one before, and I just realized this came out the same summer as Phantom Menace, The Mummy, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, South Park, Raw and Uncut. And I skipped this one because I guess at the time I was 19, I outgrew Disney films by years, you know what I mean? So I had no interest in watching this, and now here I am at my ripe old age. I'm watching Tarzan, and from the moment it started, I was all in. The main thing that sticks out to me is the animation. I think this is some of the best 2D animation that I've seen in a Disney movie. You know what I mean? The depth of field, just the crispness of it. And I miss this era of animation. No diss to Pixar. You know, Pixar has just went leaps and bounds above anything with their 3D animation, but it's just something about the 2D that gave each movie their own identity. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could tell the Disney movie by the way it's animated, and that's the identity that the movie had. And I feel like Tarzan really had an identity because of the style of animation. Like, I really dug it, and it gave it like an epicness to it. But here's the thing. What took away from the epicness of this movie is the music. The music did not fit. And I know I can't be alone when I say this, man. The music did not fit. No diss to Phil Collins. He's a legend in the game, but I feel like Phil Collins was not the right fit for this kind of movie. With the epicness of the look of this movie and the origin story, like I love a good origin story, so that's another thing that had me all in, was seeing Tarzan's origin. They should have had more of like a classical type, like John Williams type score, you know what I'm saying, like on some Hans Zimmer type shit. And I know it's a Disney movie, you have to have songs. Okay, put some songs in there, but also incorporate a really dope ass score, like The Lion King. The Lion King did that perfectly. It was a balance of songs, but at the same time they had an epic score that went with it. And I believe Hans Zimmer scored The Lion King. Am I right? Do I have that correct? I could have sworn that was Hans Zimmer. But anyways, it should have been a balance of both of them. Like, for example, when the little baby gorilla got killed in the beginning, right? That was some dark shit when the leopard or cheetah or whatever it was killed a little baby gorilla and the parents had to sit back and watch. That was some dark shit. That was messed up. And as soon as the baby gorilla gets eaten, it goes back to this happy Phil Collins song. I'm like, no, you dropped the ball on that one. Now that scene does not have the impact that it should because of that. Like I said, the score really kind of took me out of it, but it was a very cool adventure. It was a good origin story. I know nothing really about Tarzan, you know what I'm saying? Tarzan been around for years, and I don't know much about him, you know what I mean? The last Tarzan movie I think I watched was from the 80s, the Christopher Lambert one, Greystoke I think it was called, The Legend of Tarzan. So like I knew about him, I know about the, all that shit, and swinging from vines and everything, and fighting animals, and, fighting the African natives and shit, which could be borderline kind of racist, but it was just cool seeing, Tarzan's beginning, his origins, and how he became the legend that he became. Well, speaking of racist shit, Disney was on the verge now. They had to clean this shit up. Disney was on the verge of some racist shit, but they cleaned it up. I said, okay, you better do that. When Kid Tarzan had a hard time dealing with the fact that he was different from all the other gorillas, like all the other gorillas are gorillas and he's a boy, but he thinks he's one of them. And when he's looking at his reflection in the water, he takes the mud and starts putting the mud all over him so he could look like them. I said, is that blackface? Are they doing blackface? And then when you look back in the water, it was a reflection of a gorilla. I said, okay, yeah, you better clean that shit up. You know what I'm saying? The villain of this movie, Clayton, was a cookie cutter villain. There was nothing special about him, nothing that really stood out. He's no Scar or what's the dude name from Beauty and the Beast, Gaston, you know what I'm saying? He's not a villain that you're really gonna remember, but he served his purpose, you know what I'm saying? That you need a villain in a movie like this, and I thought, he was nothing special, but he wasn't terrible, you know what I'm saying? I just knew he had to be dealt with, and there was a time where Tarzan could have dealt with him, and this is a part I didn't like in this movie. There was a part where Tarzan was supposed to have checked him, he was supposed to get him. And actually, no, the daddy was going to get him. The alpha gorilla was about to get him, and Tarzan jumped him from behind and started choking his own daddy out, even though that wasn't biologically his daddy. And yes, I know he didn't give a shit about him, but he's choking him out to save that piece of shit, only for him to turn on him. And then he still ended up killing his daddy. That's the one thing I did not like. I'm like, Tarzan, you fucked up on that one. You're supposed to look out for your own first instead of these motherfuckers. I know they look like you. They're Homo sapiens, but these apes are the ones that had you when you ain't have shit. Don't forget about them. You fucked up. At that moment, Tarzan was a sellout. And I love the relationship between him and Jane. I thought that was cute. It was a cute little love story. And I think there's a sequel to this, which I definitely want to check out because, like with an origin story, you need to continue the adventure. So I want to see the adventures that Tarzan and Jane get into because I was really invested in the characters. I was invested in the story. I was invested in this movie. If the music just would have been a little bit more epic, it'd have been up there with The Lion King, I think. That's a bold statement because that's one of the best Disney movies of all time. But if that music would have been different, if they would have changed a couple of things in here, it'd have been up there with The Lion King as far as one of the dopest 2D Disney movies made. I had a good time with Tarzan. So wrapping it up, I'm going to give Disney's Tarzan, I'm going to give it a B+. Really dug it. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't give it an A because, it was almost there, but then it didn't quite get there, but I still enjoyed the shit out of this. So Perez, thank you for having me in this video once again, and The floor is yours, homie. What you got?
A big thanks to Rashad for being here in this video. Loved hearing that you enjoyed this film, man. I sent it to you and I really didn't know. I was like, is he gonna shit on another one of my favorite Disney films, one of my favorite films of all time? But I'm so happy to hear that on an overall level, you enjoyed the film, that you were able to just have a good time with it, and that I have to say, I'm quite surprised that you didn't like the music. I feel like that's kind of a hot take with this movie. I see so many memes and jokes about the fact that Phil Collins just absolutely killed it on the music for this movie. So I am very curious to all of you guys who are watching. Are you on my side? Do you think that Phil Collins did an amazing job with the music and that it fits the film? Or do you agree with Rashad and think that it doesn't really fit the film too much? I really enjoyed hearing your thoughts on it, man. I love that you had so much to say on it. I kind of had this, worry that you were going to watch this movie and kind of be like, oh, Perez, what do you got me watching, man? Another kids movie. But I'm so glad that you were able to kind of lean into it because, yeah, I totally agree with what you said. And I feel like this is a movie that has so much more to it. It's a movie that I think on the surface, people can kind of see and be like, yeah, you can just pass by it. But if you have never seen this movie before, I think it's a movie that really has a lot for younger audiences and audiences of an older age as well. It does a great job of telling a fun, epic story with really badass animation and some great badass action sequences that have some pretty dark elements throughout the course of the film. There's a moment near the end where our villain of the film, Clayton, is killed, and they literally have a shadow, a silhouette of his body hanging from a tree. It's pretty grim, it's pretty dark for a Disney film, and there are plenty of dark and grim elements in plenty of Disney films, but I really thoroughly enjoy that about this film is that it does lean into some darker elements while also being able to kind of have a foot in the more silly, fun, kind of whimsical side that you expect to see from a Disney film. I think that this film once again tells a great and emotional story that is entirely believable, fun to watch, silly for young audience members, and just for adult members. I'm always able to have a laugh with this film, enjoy the songs, sing along, and it kind of feels like one of those songs that really, really well. I have a lot of nostalgia for this film, and every time I watch it, when you listen to a song that you knew super well, all the guitar lines, the drum beats, the moments in the song, you may even know the harmonies, and I kind of feel that way when I watch this movie, and maybe the music of this movie definitely helps with that with Phil Collins. But I really enjoy being able to watch it. I know every shot. I know what the next scene is going to be. I know how it's going to transition with the music. It's just one of those films for me that I just genuinely always have a great time with. I really don't have very many negatives to it myself. I also have so many just fond memories of not only watching the movie, but, owning merchandise of it, which I feel there's way too little merchandise of this film today. When I go to Disney World and I don't see anything for this movie anywhere, it just breaks my heart because it's a film that I feel has kind of been forgotten, and it's a film that is pretty underrated unless you're already a fan of it. It's a film that I think is just so well done, and I remember going to see this movie on opening weekend, being absolutely captivated by it. I replayed the N64 game for this movie like dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I still own it till this day, and it's a movie and just an overall experience that I do thoroughly enjoy. It gives me chills every time I watch it. It puts a smile on my face, and I feel emotionally impacted by everything happening in the film. I have to give a lot of praise to the guy who played Tarzan in this film, Tony Goldwyn, who I feel is incredible in this film. I really enjoyed seeing him in live action projects as well, and I think he does a great job of really selling the character of Tarzan. He really does a great job of doing that monkey man kind of voice, sounding like somebody who is disconnected from civilization, and being able to see his transition, his growth throughout the film. His voice fits the animation so well. And Minnie Driver, who plays Jane, I think is fun and whimsical, and she plays off of Tarzan so well in this film. Their chemistry throughout the course of the film and their bond is really what sells it. There are tons of other really great characters and actors in this film, and I never get tired of hearing the people in this film perform these roles. I feel like it was a film that was incredibly well acted. It is, again, one of my favorite Disney films and easily one of my favorite animated films of all time. A film that I think is wildly underrated. I think if you have never seen this movie before, do yourself a favor. It's on Disney Plus. Go check it out. And if you have seen this movie before, and maybe it's been a while, go revisit it. This is a movie that definitely deserves a revisit, and maybe even another revisit after that. And I am definitely curious to hear what you guys have to say. Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you agree with Rashad that the music doesn't 100% fit the movie? Or do you agree with me, and do you think that it actually does fit the movie? I am very curious to hear what you guys have to say on that topic. Comment your thoughts down below. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.